You see him on Spectrum as well, covering the high school football games, and analyst there. And he joins us right now. Lance, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. Now, I'm going to get to Kenny Pickett and a couple other things here in just a moment. But could one position group be better than we think? Could that be the wide receiver position group? You had a very interesting post yesterday where Luke Flourier, that's how you say his last name, right? I don't want to be disrespectful to the young man, is being compared to Julian Edelman. Explain.
Well, he's not Julian Edelman, right? But what the Browns lack is that easy yards guy. And I've said it for years. The Browns have to go right now, since Kevin Stefanski's actually been here, they have to go 10 to 12 plays every single time. And you constantly hear they're undisciplined last year. And really, for me, it's not being undisciplined on offense. It's that you're on the field too long. And if you have to go 10 to 12 plays, 10, 15 plays, regardless of what level you are, it's hard not to have mistakes. It's hard not to have defenses make plays against you. So they need an easy yards guy. Now, he's a guy that can work against safeties. He's a guy that can work against linebackers. He's sudden, he's twitchy. He's kind of got an edge to him. He reminds you, it's the traits, right? It's the ability to work inside. It's his ability to run those option routes, ability to be extended run game, so you don't have to block everybody in the run game. You can throw some RPOs to him. He can help you on special teams. He can also help you in getting ready for those slot receivers that you're going to see this year, the St. Browns, people like that. So there's things that he can do with the lack of depth the Browns have at receiver and the lack of depth they have with what his skill set is. I think he's a guy who has a chance to make the team because he brings an element of sudden and twitchiness, and Browns got to win first down, and they got to stay out of those second, third long situations to protect that quarterback, whoever that may be.
Had they had that in theory with any of the other wide receivers they had attempted to take, granted, again, they're always taking receivers, in the third round, the fourth round and beyond. But was there anybody else they had maybe thought over the years that could fill the role you're talking about?
Well, if you look back, Jarvis Landry is a guy that was really good at that, right? He was undersized, wasn't outright straight line speed, but he could work in the slot. He had enough speed, football speed, I like to say. He did a lot of really good things. The Browns receiver-wise kind of reminds me, they have like a body type they like, right? Long arms. They've done really good. Seth Tillman, I think, can be really good. I am high on him if he can stay healthy. That body type, right? The guy who's an outside one guy, can stretch it vertically, run the comebacks, the digs, things like that. But they have not had a lot of those guys inside who are good in a phone booth, right? Guys who can beat you in area, work out against a linebacker, really good at understanding coverage and leverage and angles and things like that. That's something they haven't had. They've had some really good outside guys, even Donovan Peoples-Jones. If you look at that body type, vertical guy, not always good in a small space. That's what really helps a quarterback, right? Guys who can find areas. You don't have to do a lot. You don't have to throw it a long way. The coverage underneath is easier to read sometimes than the coverage over the top. So no, they haven't had a lot of guys. Last guy that I think they had was Jarvis Landry, who was very, very good at it.
Do you think it matters in that regard who the quarterback is for how good any of the young receivers can be? Like, obviously the last few years they were building around an offense that was supposed to be compatible with a very different type of quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Now they've kind of gone in another direction, although they've got 4 different quarterbacks to choose from now. Do you think that matters, or do you think these guys can stand out at wide receiver regardless of who is the signal caller?
Well, the receiver position is different now, right? Because you're not in 11 personnel as much as you've been, right? You're not a spread team. You're not asking those offensive line to drop back and pass protect with a true quarterback in the pocket. Now you're involving the run game in the pass game, which means you're going to do a lot of play action. Play action really helps those offensive linemen because those defensive linemen have to kind of respect the run first. So the receiver position, you don't have to be as deep or as talented as long as you have some guys who can go over the top, guys who can sit in zone, because if you can win on first down and run the ball, you dictate. So if you get the 2nd and 5, you can dictate what the defense has in the game. Then you get less people covering. Then you get less underneath coverage. Then you can take play action shots over the top. You kind of simplify it for the quarterback if you can win on first down and run the ball and be physical. Because remember, that defense has to work on physicality all week. We're playing the Browns. If you think about a couple years ago with Chubb, we're playing the Browns. We've got to work on that physicality. We've got to work against power and counter and pin and pull. You're not worried so much about the pass game. When you're facing Deshaun Watson, the theory was we got to cover the pass, right? And run game is the quarterback's best friend. It's cliche, but it's really true. And it can really help a young quarterback or a transitioning quarterback if you can win on first down and be in control on 2nd and 3rd down.
Run game has struggled over the last couple of years. Do you have to have a respected run game for play action to really work?
It's interesting, right? You got to be committed to the run, and sometimes you will be successful with it, but sometimes you face guys you can't block. But it's the theory of what is that? For me, it's always about what is the other team working at. And even at the high school level, there's 2 work days, right? So for us in high school, we really worked hard and hit each other on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. What do we want the defense to work on? So whether we're running the ball successfully or not, what are they trying to stop? And whether they say to you, we're going to stop the run, and they do stop the run, that's still setting up your play action. So obviously you got to have some success in the run game, but more importantly, you got to be committed to your identity. You got to say, we're going to run the ball. If you look back, everybody talks about, we got to get less defenders in the box. There was times when Browns didn't care what you did. You put 8, 9 in the box, they didn't care. They're going to run it at you. And that's an identity, and that's the identity that a defensive coordinator has to kind of work on during the week. So it's more of, we're going to run it no matter what you do, and that's what the defense is working on, and that will help set up play action. So success is kind of overrated in terms of we got to make sure that this is our identity, and the defense is working on that during the week.
It's funny you said that, because that kind of epitomized Kyle Shanahan loved it when he saw 9 guys, 10 guys in the box, because those all had home run capabilities. And I felt like that was the case too with Nick Chubb. You'd have all these guys that were ganged up at the line. And so speaking about Chubb, obviously they're trying to fill his position through the draft. They went and got Judkins from Ohio State, 36 overall. And then a little bit later on, 126, Dylan Sampson. Kind of compare and contrast those guys and their home run hitting capabilities.
Well, a lot of people have said they're, like thunder and lightning. I really don't see them like that. I think they're both really well-rounded backs. Judkins, to me, I had him a little bit underrated after seeing him at camp in terms of his physical body. He's a thick kid who can really help those guys, like I said, win on first down. Sampson's the same thing. Now, Judkins, I always like to say with backs, Judkins is a guy who runs with his hair on fire, right? So you're going to have to block it because he's coming. Where Sampson's a little bit more patient. So if you think about a gap scheme where everybody has a simple rule and you just get downhill, Judkins is going to be really, really good at power, counter, where Sampson's kind of an inside zone, which is very Stefanski-like, right, where you got to be patient and let those linemen work. I also think they've included another back, and people, what does that mean? Well, Jerome Ford now goes back to what I think he can be really good at, right? He's a third down back. He pass protects very well. He's a home run hitter. If you can get him on a screen, get him on a swing, isolate him like Stefanski likes to do in empty. So they've now, not only they got 2 backs that kind of fit the scheme on first and second down, they've allowed Jerome Ford to do what he does best. So I think Judkins, for me, Sampson's very good, but for me, Judkins is the guy, because of his heaviness, he allows them to win on first down, which is going to be key for both sides of the ball for the Browns to have success this fall.
Lance Reisland joining us on the show, special to Cleveland.com, former coach. You see him on Spectrum. I've been telling people I was going to ask you this all morning, so here it goes. Are we sleeping on Kenny Pickett?
Well, for me, the quarterback situation is always funny. I will say this without question. It does not matter till the pads go on. It does not matter until you get live bullets flying around you. Now, what I think the Browns have done a nice job of, including with Pickett, is trying to get Gabriel, Sanders, and Pickett up to speed, because you can't compete in the NFL at any level unless you know what you're doing, right? And it's not only knowing what your players are doing against a specific defense, but then you got to know what your plays are and the adjustments are with your players when the defense adjusts to what you're doing. So those take reps, right? Live reps, not walkthroughs, not things on the board, live reps. And that's why I think Flacco has the advantage going in, just because he's seen not only what's going to happen with the original play design, but what happens with the defensive adjustments. Pickett's a guy that, it's just like with Sanders, I said it a bunch, right? These guys have gotten way too much praise and way too much criticism without any pads on. Let's see when the pads go on and they're seeing live bullets around them, what they can do. Now, Pickett fits in very well with Stefanski, right? He's good at play action. He throws the ball well from different launch points. He can throw that levels concept. He's tough. He doesn't have, because like we were talking earlier, if you run the ball pretty well, they're going to crowd the line of scrimmage. I always felt like one of my goals as a quarterback coach was I got to try to make that picture clear for the quarterback, or make the window, less things in the window, so the quarterback makes it easy for him. Pickett can do those things. And for me, I listened to you guys about and Nick yesterday about the tiers. For me, there's 2 tiers. There's quarterbacks you win with, and there's quarterbacks you win because of. And there's very few quarterbacks you win because of. I think Pickett's a guy that you can win with if you surround him with bright people.
Oh, I love talking about that list Nick put out yesterday. He had one in particular that kind of messed me up in the head, because I try to put these quarterbacks on every other team. and see what they would do. And he had Burrow in the non-elite, basically that second category, but yet he put Jalen Hurts in the elite category. And I think you got to flip those guys.
Well, I'm a big Burrow fan, right? And Burrow's a guy you can win because of. There's only 4 guys. It's Burrow, it's Mahomes, Jackson, and Allen. Those are guys you can win because of. And what that means is their defense isn't very strong. They don't have great receivers. The run game is not there. You're winning because of that guy. And for me, there's only 4 guys. Now, Jalen Hurts falls into the quarterbacks you can win with, right? And it goes all the way down to Anthony Richardson, who's last on my list. And what I mean by that is Jalen Hurts needs a lot more support in terms of those 4 guys. And as you get down the list, the guys who struggle with skills or whatever it may be, they need more support, right? And obviously, if you get lower and lower, then you got to find a new quarterback. But if you don't have a quarterback, for me, there's only four quarterbacks that you win because of them. Then you got to figure out, the rest of your roster. And for me, everybody in the NFL, besides 4 teams, are working on how do we improve our roster to improve our quarterback? Because if it's not a guy who you can just throw it 55 times a game, then what do we have to do? And I think the Browns are on the right track with that in terms of running the ball, playing really good defense, having an elite defensive line, going back to the run game, shorten the game. They won't be pretty, but wins are pretty. It doesn't matter if you win 2-0 or 50-0. It's W's and L's. And I think, the quarterback position is that way. But yeah, I'm with you. Burrow is an elite guy, but there's very few of those guys in the NFL. The rest are trying to figure out how do we make this roster fit with the guy we have.
My top 5 Cleveland Browns since 1999: Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, Joe Thomas, Phil Dawson. I'm going to say Denzel Ward. Did I make a glaring omission of Josh Cribbs or Baker Mayfield?
Well, I'll tell you what, I got one guy that I think gets overlooked. I love Cribbs, obviously KSU alum. I love Cribbs. I love what he did. I love his attitude. But a guy that I really think kind of epitomizes what the Browns want to be is Jarvis Landry, right? He's a guy that came in and he just had an attitude, and he's a guy that's not super talented but super tough and has a little bit of grit to him, and just toughness that you like to see in football guys, especially the Cleveland area. So for me, I think that's a great list. Garrett, you can't go wrong with guys who are going to be Hall of Famers, Joe Thomas and Garrett, and Chubb's my all-time, for me as a fan as well, Chubb is just a guy you love. And as a coach, you go down there and watch him practice. Chubb practiced like he was fighting for a spot when he was a Hall of Famer type guy. Like you go down there and he was first in line, and he's just a guy you can't help but love if you're a football coach. So no, I don't think you missed out on those guys. I think it's a good list. I think, there's a lot of Browns since 1999. So I think, if you're even 20th on the list, it's pretty good, right? So no, I don't think you missed. Cribbs would have been in there, and maybe Jarvis Landry.
All right, I'll take that. I mean, I respect people's opinions when they say Josh Cribbs. I don't think they're crazy. Coach, we thank you very much for the time. Of course, we'll talk to you again very soon. All the best.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me. We'll talk soon.
Lance Reisland, special to Cleveland.com. You hear him here on The Fan. You watch him on Spectrum. He's all over the place. Former coach, knows what he's talking about when it comes to the great game of football. All right.